We are ambitious and we can do the impossible, but we can only do this together and through our collective commitment.
All over America, women continue to be underrepresented in law enforcement.
According to the United States Department of Justice, the percentage of women in law enforcement nationwide has remained relatively stagnant for the last few decades.
I sat down with several women on the front lines of this crisis.
Undermines public safety.
One idea, hire and promote more women.
What's being done to fill the gender gap in policing?
Fox 43's Alyssa Kratz dives deeper into the barriers that exist for women.
Masculine culture, standard, generational distinction, in childcare.
Where do we go from here?
Right now, women compose only about 13% of law enforcement in America across the board.
What is more startling, only 3% of women are in leadership positions. That is an area that we really need to improve.
As advancing by numbers, we're not.
We're still underrepresented, and we definitely have to do a better job.
So our numbers are low, but our strength is amazing.
We have to keep pushing ahead.
When you talk about the 1800s, it wasn't a profession for women. Women kind of fell into it. Even as we started to progress, it wasn't about focusing on law enforcement the way the men were. So they were trained differently, hired differently, paid differently. Women had a different path to take.
My law enforcement career really wasn't planned. My first career was in journalism, so it wasn't until my late 20s, almost 30, that I met a retired FBI agent on the golf course, and he convinced me that this would be a great career.
A friend of mine married a police officer, and one day she told me that she signed me up to take the test at NYPD. I was a secretary down Wall Street sitting behind a desk, and I get a call from my mother. And she says, "What did you do now?" We have a letter from the police department. Thought this would be very exciting and an opportunity to do something quite different.
My grandfather was the one who encouraged me. He was an Air Force pilot in the Army Air Corps and later joined the Air Force, and his only wish for all of his grandchildren is that we'd somehow serve our country.
For me, it was easy. I already knew that I wanted to be a police officer since I was in 5th grade. I followed in the family footsteps.
What happened is I became a mother. It's crazy to me that this would inspire me and teach me that I was strong enough to do anything. And I decided I'm not going to hold back anymore. I'm going to go full force in who I am, and I decided I can become a special agent.
I started out as a federal protective officer. When I first was hired, I was told I was hired because I looked like I could take a punch.
When I first did start in the Secret Service in 1973, I thought all of the agents and the Uniform Division officers were all men.
There was a negative response that was always conveyed to the women that, need not apply. They said basically it was a man's job, that women couldn't do surveillance, the long hours, didn't have the stamina to do this type of work.
There were gasps that there's no way a woman could be doing this job.
This is a letter from Department of Justice, John Edgar Hoover, Director, and it's to Miss Nancy McRae. Dear Miss McRae, I was glad to learn from your letter received on April 13th that you are interested in a career in the FBI.
And enclosed are the publications regarding the opportunities available and requirements for employment with us.
Because of the nature of duties our special agents are called upon to perform, we do not employ women in this position.
We must have agents who are qualified to cope with the situation they may face.
As you will see, however, women do hold many important positions in this bureau.
He was encouraging her to go into a support position, not become a special agent. That would get me fired up, ready to go.
You want to say it's laughable, but it was not laughable.
Here it is in black and white, the things that women faced.
In August of '69, Nixon signed an executive order.
11478. After that executive order was signed, it opened the door for equal opportunity in the federal workspace, and it prohibited discrimination based on race, color, national origin, religion, and gender. that created a space for women to not only become gun carriers, but be able to do search warrants as well as arrest. Just open the door for change.
Now, women had served in police departments before that, but this is the first time that it was declared that women will become federal agents and agencies should hire them.
The first woman to be sworn in was Phyllis Shantz as a member of the Executive Protection Service.
Then Secret Service started hiring.
The United States Postal Inspection Service hired its first women.
Patricia Morton was the first woman to join the Diplomatic Security Service.
The first woman that was hired by ATF in New York City was Joanne Kocher. FBI and other federal agencies started hiring their first women.
When you think about the challenges that they face, I wonder who was whispering to them that they even could. What gave them the motivation to want to step out into the forefront?
In the early days, the Interagency Committee for Women in Law Enforcement was a task force that the Office of Personnel Management started to focus in on the number of women applying for jobs and the retention of women. It was co-sponsored by the Departments of Treasury and Department of Justice.
And they were trying to look at ways to recruit women into the profession.
In the late 90s, it was decided that the organization would transfer out of the government from an interagency committee to a nonprofit.
And individuals such as Margie Moore decided we needed to keep having that, to have a group that was looking at retention and recruitment.
And that's how it began, with
a group of women sitting around our kitchen table, and we each threw in $500.
And we started WIFLE.
WIFLE's origin story is women seeing a need and doing everything they could on their own dime, on their own time, to come together and really build an infrastructure that would support this kind of change.
You had a team of women that worked nonstop to keep this going. It took a lot of fortitude and a lot of faith. Every year, it just got a little bit bigger and a little bit stronger.
WIFLE is a powerhouse among women in law enforcement.
WIFLE is the only organization in the United States dedicated to addressing the underrepresentation of women in federal law enforcement.
We're aiming for gender equity.
We need to have law enforcement that is representative of the populations in which we serve.
Women bring different ideas and approaches. We contribute a unique perspective and experiences to the field.
We have an ability and a capability to rise through the ranks of an organization, but we really aren't progressing as quickly and steadily as we should.
Only focusing on women in federal law enforcement. My research is focusing on the fact that obstacles still exist for women.
Where are the inherent biases? What are the artificial barriers that are not allowing women to be recruited, to be hired, to be retained, and to be promoted?
WIFLE's the only organization that does this type of research.
Over 90% of all the research in the country.
And numbers tell the story.
Now we have empirical data. We have a body of research to support a recommendation that we may find.
Changing those policies and those practices, allowing for flexibilities, and holding agencies accountable that we deserve to be there, but also too, more importantly, that we're effective and the positives of the role of women in law enforcement.
WIFLE does an amazing job of ensuring that there is great representation in our law enforcement agencies in terms of women.
WIFLE has been known within the federal agencies.
We have an audience with people that are game changers, people that are decision makers. We align ourselves with federal agencies and agency heads where we can communicate what's not happening and what should happen as it relates to women being able to progress.
It's for women in federal law enforcement to find those groups that have the same mission and values that can support women in our profession. Noble and FLEOA and HAPCOA, those other agencies that support diversity, it's connecting with them to change the practices of hiring and retention and promotion. 30 by 30, a great organization. We just partnered with them in December of 2022.
When the federal government started to get behind 30 by 30, we immediately started realizing the importance of WIFLE. We have two primary aims. The first is to look at police policies and assessments and figure out where are they inherently biased and where do they fail to meet the unique needs of women and fix them. The other thing we're doing is looking on police culture. We want to make sure that we're really intentional about creating a culture where everybody can thrive. Hope is that we will achieve 30% of women in law enforcement recruit classes by the year 2030, and I think the momentum is building.
Our annual leadership training is our hallmark of what we do.
It's really powerful to be in a room with 500 women who are the biggest badasses you've ever seen.
You walk into that room, the energy is palpable. You can feel the energy of just dynamic women who are making a difference, who are excited about their careers, and they are truly there to encourage each other.
Also, we're really committed about the community engagement and doing that more because it's a gift back to us. It reminds us why we joined this profession, the impact that we have on the community, and more importantly, the impact that we have on girls who are rising up and trying to emulate us and be like us someday.
When you read the write-ups that the agencies for nominations for the WIFLE Awards, you are just floored by the talent that's out there.
To have a moment where you're recognized amongst your peers and colleagues, and also with your leadership, is so powerful that WIFLE does that. To have been a recipient, it was life-changing for me.
Women are doing some monumental things and making such a great impact on this profession.
We support women through our college scholarship, letting them know WIFLE is there to support them because, again, that is our future legacy.
WIFLE has supported me by surrounding me with amazing women leaders in their profession, who care about the next generation of women leaders in law enforcement.
I am really fortunate in that I had opportunities to chat with women in law enforcement who paved the way for my career. It's important that organizations like WIFLE exist because it establishes a community for women to share experiences, challenges, and successes, in addition to fostering support for women working in a male-dominated profession.
WIFLE provides a really unique avenue to be an advocate, to be an example, and to mentor and inspire younger women who are beginning their careers in law enforcement.
I really appreciate WIFLE for everything they do to help bring all of us as female law enforcement officers together and really creating an environment to foster that support and growth. I actually met more women from my own agency in one place than I had in the last 10 years, and there were 8 of us.
This is my tribe. This is family. It's been profound for me, and it has wanted me to be a better person and woman in federal law enforcement.
I think the most important thing is that you have to commit to helping each other.
Whether it's encouraging a woman to go into law enforcement or encouraging the women that we work alongside every day, that energy propels us forward.
It takes a certain level of passion and determination to pursue this line of work.
I say that the deputies that I support and work with and the FBI agents I worked with before are superheroes. When we sign up for this, we know that we're committing to something much bigger than us, and we know that those people that stand with us have the same commitment. So there's something really powerful and really special in that.
We always talk about, honoring our past, recognizing our presence, but more importantly, being optimistic and hopeful for our future. I want everyone, as they enter this profession, just to know that WIFLE is here. We're here to support. We will engage leaders, agencies, Congress, our partners, just to make things just a little bit better. Because again, that is my motivation. You know, I just want my daughter to know if she follows in Grandma and Grandpa's footsteps and Mom and Dad's footsteps, it'll just be easier for her someday.
I see myself being able to pave the way for the generation after me by carrying the wisdom from the women who mentored me and recognizing that there are still many areas to address to improve the experiences of women across law enforcement.
No one's going to give us permission to change things. And you don't just have to take things as they are. Like one voice becomes a few voices, becomes many voices. And I would just say take control of your future and help us build a better one.
I'm optimistic that the profession will not only grow, but it will go forward. Women and young women, they are going to make it happen and lead the way.
Looking at the role of women in law enforcement moving forward, I don't think there's any limit on the impact that women can have.
In 20 years, I'm hoping that 50% of law enforcement is female.
I just see it just getting better and stronger and people recognizing more the value that women have in this profession.
I'm so thankful to be standing beside some women that aren't afraid of change and they have hope for a brighter future. We will get there.
Be who you are, be the strong woman that you are, and you can make a difference in this world, and definitely join us. We need you.
Together, I know we will do amazing things for WIFLE and most importantly, for the generations of women joining this profession.